Hello, good evening, and welcome to my little observatory. My name is Nitsuki Subaru, and tonight I'd like to invite you on a little walk through the May night sky. Spring was in full bloom in April. At the beginning, we had the sakura reaching their peak. I hope many of you had the chance to enjoy hanami beneath those beautiful cherry blossoms. Now, as we move into May, the night sky begins to shift and the constellations of spring take center stage. If you look toward the western sky just after sunset, you'll find two brilliant points of light, Jupiter and Venus. If you're up early, just before sunrise, Saturn begins to make its return in the eastern sky, becoming easier to spot as the month goes on. Tonight, let's begin our journey by exploring some of the most notable constellations of the spring sky. Here we are looking southward at the sky as seen from Tokyo at 9 p.m. on May 1st. Up high and towards the north, we find one of the key signpost constellations of spring. A set of 7 bright stars forms a familiar shape known as the Big Dipper. This makes up a part of Ursa Major, the Greater Bear. If you take these 2 stars at the edge of the Big Dipper's bowl and follow them downwards towards the northern horizon, we are led to Polaris, the North Star. Polaris marks one end of the constellation Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. Polaris also holds a special position in the sky. It lies almost directly above Earth's rotational axis, which means that as the Earth spins, Polaris appears to remain nearly fixed in place. Returning to the Big Dipper, we can follow the gentle curve of its handle across the sky to this bright star here. This is Arcturus of the constellation Bootes, the herdsman. Its name comes from a phrase meaning guardian of the bear or alternatively guardian of the north, reflecting its position near Ursa Major. Arcturus is the brightest star in the northern celestial hemisphere. Following the arc to Arcturus, we can now spike to this bright star here. This is Spica of the constellation Virgo, the Maiden. Virgo is the second largest constellation in the sky. Its stars are fairly faint, but Spica stands out clearly. The name Spica means ear of grain and represents a bundle of wheat that Virgo holds. This region of the sky also marks an important point along the sun's path. Today, the autumnal equinox, the point where the sun crosses the celestial equator heading south around September 22 or 23, lies within Virgo. However, this hasn't always been the case. In ancient times, this point was located in the neighboring constellation of Libra, which is why it is still referred to as the first point of Libra. Over long periods of time, Earth's slow wobble, known as axial precession, causes this point to gradually shift across the sky. Because of this motion, the autumnal equinox is currently in Virgo and will continue drifting westward, eventually moving into Leo in the distant future. From the Big Dipper, we followed the arc to Arcturus and then spiked down to Spica. Arc to Arcturus, spike to Spica. Now, looking slightly westward from Arcturus and Spica, we come to another bright star. This is the nebula, meaning the lion's tail, and it marks the tail of Leo the lion. To find the rest of Leo, look for a distinctive backwards question mark or sickle shape. This marks the lion's head. At the base of this shape is a bright star Regulus. Its name means little king, and it marks the heart of the lion. If we step back and look at the bigger picture, we can connect three bright stars: Arcturus in Bootes, Spica in Virgo, and the nebula in Leo. Together, these form a large asterism in the sky known as the Spring Triangle. If you have a chance, try stepping outside on a clear evening and see if you can navigate the spring sky for yourself. Now that we've explored the spring constellations, let's take a look at some of the notable celestial events happening this month. On May 5th, here in Japan, we celebrate Kodomo no Hi, Children's Day, and Rikka, the traditional start of summer. Kodomo no Hi is dedicated to celebrating the health, happiness, and growth of children. Across the country, you may see koinobori, these carp streamers, flying in the wind. These carps symbolize strength and perseverance inspired by their ability to swim upstream. Families also display kabuto, or samurai helmets, along with warrior dolls representing protection and courage. Seasonal foods are an important part of this celebration as well. You may see kashiwamochi, sweet cakes wrapped in oak leaves, and chimaki, rice cakes wrapped in bamboo leaves and steamed. Rikka, which usually falls around May 5th or 6th, marks the beginning of summer in the traditional calendar. It signals a seasonal shift as fresh greenery emerges, the days grow longer, and temperatures begin to rise while still remaining comfortable. It also marks the period just before the rainy season, known as Tsuyu, begins. Around May 6 to 7, we have the Eta Aquariids meteor shower. This meteor shower reaches its peak around the evening of the 6th, but the best time to observe it here in Japan will be in the early morning hours of May 7th, just before sunrise. The meteors appear to radiate from the constellation Aquarius, which rises in the early morning sky. However, the radiant only climbs higher shortly before dawn, so the window for observation is relatively short, only about 1 to 2 hours before the sky begins to brighten. Visibility this year is also affected by the moon, which will be near full phase, washing out many of the fainter meteors. As a result, this is not expected to be a particularly strong display, with perhaps around 5 meteors per hour under these conditions. Still, this shower has a fascinating origin. It's caused by the debris left behind by Halley's Comet, the same comet responsible for the Orionid meteor showers later in October. On May 14th, Mercury reaches superior conjunction. This means Mercury passes to the far side of the Sun from our point of view, becoming lost in the Sun's glare and not visible in the sky. After this, it will gradually move into the evening sky over the following weeks. Then, on May 17th, we have the new moon. At this time, the moon lies between the Earth and the Sun, and the sunlit side is turned away from us, making it essentially invisible in the night sky. This also means that the nights around this date will be especially dark, ideal conditions for stargazing and for spotting fainter stars and objects. Throughout May, Jupiter can be seen shining in the western sky after sunset, with Venus glowing lower near the horizon. On the evenings of May 19th and 20th, a thin crescent moon will pass close by these planets, first appearing near Venus on the 19th, and then Jupiter on the 20th, making for some beautiful pairings in the twilight sky. In the latter half of the month, another planet begins to return. Just before dawn, Saturn starts to become visible low in the eastern sky, gradually rising earlier and becoming easier to spot as the days go on. On May 22nd, Uranus reaches conjunction with the Sun. This means it lies in the same direction as the Sun in the sky, making it impossible to observe as it is lost in the Sun's glare. The following day, on the 23rd, we have a more unusual event, a lunar occultation of Regulus. An occultation occurs when a foreground object passes directly in front of a distant planet or star, temporarily blocking it from view. In Japan, this event will take place during the daytime, making it difficult to observe without the aid of a telescope. It will be visible primarily in regions south of Fukushima Prefecture. From Tokyo, Regulus will disappear behind the moon at around 2:49 and reappear at about 3:24. This month will be special as we will experience two full moons, one on May 2nd and another on May 31st. The moon's orbit around Earth is not a perfect circle, but slightly elliptical. This means that its distance from Earth changes over time. As a result, the moon can appear slightly larger or slightly smaller in the sky, depending on how close it is to us. This figure shows that the Earth-Moon distance changes cyclically. Notice that the closest and furthest points, known as perigee and apogee, also shift over time. This is due to gravitational influence, especially from the Sun. Around the end of May, the full moon occurs when the moon is relatively far from the Earth, closer to apogee. This means it will appear just a bit smaller than average. In fact, the apparent size of the moon can vary by up to about 12% between its closest and furthest points over the course of the year. It's a subtle difference, not something you'll easily notice with just your eyes, but if you take photos of the moon at different times and compare them, you may be surprised at how much it changes. So tonight, we've explored the constellations of the spring sky. We began with the Big Dipper as our guide, using it to find Polaris, the North Star, and then following its arc across the sky to Arcturus and on to Spica. Continuing westward, we reached the nebula, completing the spring triangle. We finished by looking ahead to some of the celestial events happening this month. As the seasons continue to change here on Earth, the sky above us is changing as well, bringing new stars, new constellations, and new sights to discover. So if you have a chance, step outside on a clear evening, look up, and see how many of these sights you can find for yourself. As the sky brightens and a new day begins, I'd like to thank you for spending this moment with me. Rest easy, and I wish you all clear skies and calm nights.